Hello, my fellow weirdos, freaks, peculiars, unknowns, and cryptics. You are watching my channel, and something is watching you. What's up, everybody? You are back on my channel, and I literally have no clue why, but I am so happy you guys are back and you are watching. If you're watching my last video, then you know that last time I kind of talked about D&D 5e and how it's oversaturating tabletop games and how this oversaturation makes it accessible to a level of making other tabletop games harder to get into. And it kind of makes it less likely for someone to try one of these other tabletop games because there's just not a lot of resources on them, and that kind of sucks. But the reason I bring this up is basically last time I talked about tabletop games, and that kind of opened up the gateway, so I decided, hey, let's continue on this RPG for tabletop, Railroad Train. And I believe there is a tabletop game talking about railroad trains, but I need to stay on focus, you know? So with that being said, I guess I'm just gonna tell you how to play tabletop games the wrong way. And I know that sounds weird, like how to play tabletop the wrong way, because there's not really very many ways to play a tabletop game wrong. When you sit down on that table, despite what the rule book says, these rule books are only guidelines on how you should play this game. These are not set in stones, and you can alter them and modify them to fit your table as you need. You can make your own calls, your own judgment, and that's why tables can feel drastically different as you go from one place to the other. And that's one part of the tabletop game that makes it a tabletop game. It's extremely hard to play it wrong because you can play it in any way you feel that feels fun. And that's the key word there, that feels fun. And that's how you can kind of figure out how to play a tabletop game wrong. See, people have these like notions that there are just things that are inherently wrong to do in tabletop games, like the charismatic bard. Yeah, let's go with bard. Everybody knows the bard, and everybody knows the D&D bard meme of seduce the dragon. And that's something that is made fun of and is looked down upon, but it's not necessarily wrong. DMPCs are also not necessarily wrong. Even edgy characters are also not necessarily wrong. So what makes them wrong? It's because they don't fit at the table they're being played at. If you have a happy-go-lucky party always working together, the setting is bright, happy, and loving, and all of a sudden you have this dark, edgy character whose entire family, no, his entire village has been burnt down into a crisp, and now he only works alone because he's afraid to love, and he wants to kill the man who killed his village. And he's just filled with hatred and all of that in this happy, bright place, then, yeah, of course it's gonna be cringy. He doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. It's off-putting. Same thing with a kind of party that's looking for adventure, kind of to help people out, and they want to slay the dragons and help the day and save the day, and the bard is literally there with them trying to sex up every creature they face. Not only is it off-putting, it's annoying to the particular table. So what's the problem in here? It's communication. Being able to talk to your party, being able to talk to the GM talking to their party, and kind of figuring out what kind of game they're all going to play, because everybody has their own thing in mind, even just a little bit, and in all honesty, it's really kind of the GM's job to make sure he talks to all of his players, get an idea of what all their players want and want from the game and what kind of characters they're bringing to the table, and veto something when they feel like it might not fit the campaign, or more importantly, the party, because it's the fun of everyone that matters, not the fun of a singular person. With that being said, DMPCs are another thing that's looked down upon, and they can actually be really fun if done correctly, because again, that's another piece of communication. Now, it's not a direct piece of communication, it's more like in character communication, whether your party wants this DMPC to stick with them so they can continue on, or whether they cast the DMPC to the side and continue to avert their adventure without them, should be up to the player and not up to the DM. Despite the DM controlling the world, he should not control how the party makes their decision, unless he is crafty and manipulative enough to do that, trick them into believing something is their own idea, or that it was just a unfortunate coincidence. Or you can just just kind of stack the odds in a non-noticeable way to allow certain objectives to happen. But you don't railroad them. And I know I just jumped from DMPCs to straight to railroading. That's another thing. It's something that bugs me. You can't just directly railroad a character and shoot down every idea that they have, being like, no, you can't do this because of this, you can't do this because you do this. If logically what they're saying doesn't logically make sense in the current setting, then yeah, you can shoot them down. But if there's a possibility for it to work, then they kind of have the right to try it out, even if it doesn't meet your vision. And you're gonna have to adapt to that. You're gonna have to switch and change, and maybe you're gonna have to take a guy and put him over here instead of there. And that's kind of a non-verbal communication skill you're gonna have to pick up, and it's a kind of understanding and agreement between you and your players. See, the thing about D&D is not only do you need communication, you need trust. You need to trust your players to respect you and to do what they need to do and move the story forward, and they need to trust you to provide the story for them to move. They need to trust you to give them those story beats and allow them to be their characters, adventure through your world. And that kind of trust is one thing that keeps the game going. Not having trust between the DM and the player causes this paradigm shift that, again, causes you to play the game wrong. And yeah, it is very possible to play the game wrong. It is very possible to play any tabletop game wrong, despite tabletop games being very, 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 I can't even, flexible. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for, flexible. Yeah, that's what we'll go with. And yeah, there are tabletop games that let you play one-on-one, or by yourself, or with 8 people, or 4 people, or 3 people, and it doesn't matter. But the rules of that all still stays the same, that first, you need communication, and second, you need trust. And last of all, what you really need is respect. The player and the GMs need to respect each other. We have to respect each other's kind of boundaries, their kind of zones. Players need to respect the DM's story, and the DM needs to respect the player's free will. Without respect on either of those sides, it becomes a tragic, deformed version of what a tabletop should be. And if trust, respect, and communication sounds familiar, it is. It's the basis to a healthy relationship. And guess what? D&D is a social game. So of course it would have the same material components that is necessary for a relationship. Because in the end, you're socializing with friends. Even if they are strangers at a table, they are still friends in the end. And you can build those relationships with one another by having trust in your party, trust in your DM, being able to communicate, and most importantly, respecting everyone at the table. And without any of those three things, you're essentially playing the game wrong. But with those, you're free to do just about anything in a tabletop game. You can fudge rolls just to make it a little bit more fun or challenging or kind of keep the story moving. Maybe you give them that hidden little boost that they didn't know they needed, or maybe they needed to lose this fight. So you just slightly push the rolls to favor one side rather than the other. Or maybe you are tactful and you find ways to manipulate the situation so that the party goes a certain way that you want them to. Or maybe the party is becoming creative. You find spectacular ways that allow you to avoid using the dice and more using your environment and just a tiny bit of skill. Or maybe you get rid of the dice altogether, use cards like playing cards or dominoes. Maybe use the Jenga sets instead of the dice rolls, or whatever you choose. The truth of the matter is, as long as you have respect, communication, and trust, you're playing the game right. And if you have none of those things, then you're definitely playing the game wrong. And I know this might be an opinion, and you guys don't have to listen to me. It's fine. Like, this is my opinion after all. But in the end of the day, this is an opinion I feel very strongly against. Not against. That I feel very strongly for. And I will never stop believing that to play a tabletop game, you will always need communication, trust, and most importantly, respect. I hope you guys will bring all of that to your tables and have a good session, whatever game you're playing. And hopefully that will guarantee you a great time. I hope to hear from you guys again. Watch that channel, like my videos, maybe subscribe, and guys, leave a comment. Tell me how I'm doing. Tell me how I can get better, because I really do enjoy making this content for you guys.